Yo, Headliner Nation, what's going on? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and we are back this week with another mock draft episode here on Monday, doing another 2-quarterback mock draft. We've had quite a few people ask us about 2 QB leagues because, you know, here on the Fantasy Headliners, we preach that late quarterback draft strategy, but that goes out the door when you have a 2-quarterback league and you really have to readjust how you're drafting. And we've had a lot of people ask us, hey, we want to get your thoughts on this. We know what you would do in a 1 QB league, but what do you do in a 2-quarterback league? So hopefully in this mock draft, y'all get a better sense of what I would do. Jake did his 2-quarterback draft last week, and we wanted to compare it with what I would do, kind of my philosophy with 2 QBs this week, and we'll see how that helps y'all out in those leagues. Don't forget our partners over at Fantrax this season. We're mock drafting on their site, and we're also running a best ball challenge over there, $1,000 in cash prizes. If you don't already have a Fantrax account, first you have to go to fantrax.com/headliners and create an account through that link. It's very important that you do that first. After you've done that, come back to this video, and down below in the comments there is a link to our best ball challenge. Go there and then you can jump in and all the action. Make sure you do that before it's too late. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to mock, though. Pop, lock, and mock it on this Monday afternoon. So let's go ahead and hop into it and see how my 2-quarterback strategy plays out this week. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're hopping right into the draft. Remember from last week, Jake did a 2-quarterback draft, and we decided to run with the same thing this week. So your boy would be able to show you kind of how I go through a 2 QB draft, all right? It's always good to get different perspectives. Now you get Jake's perspective, you get my perspective, and my hope is that I am not going to be sniped on a constant basis either. So that is going to be our game plan for this week, is not to get sniped. Now you can't do that, right? You can't do that. It doesn't always matter, okay? So 2 QB league, how does that change our mindset? A little bit different than a super flex league, right? In a super flex league, you're kind of at the point where, hey, if I get a bye week where I don't have both of my quarterbacks, it's all right. I can still get guys that can fill in there that will be high upside flexes. This is not the same thing. You've got to start 2 every single week. And that's what we're going to do here in this draft. We got to get our quarterbacks. And honestly, right now, we're off to a start with the running backs at the beginning of round 1. Absolutely don't hate it. I'm all the way back at pick 8. Now, this is not my favorite place to pick at all. I don't like being this far back. Most dope forever taking Nick Chubb at number 4. I see you, man. I love it. I love it. I love seeing Nick Chubb go that early in drafts. You know why? Because they're not drinking the Kool-Aid that Kareem Hunt hurts Nick Chubb. I absolutely love it. So, you know, like I said, normally I don't like drafting in the 8-hole. In this instance, it might not be that bad because I'm going to get my basically pick of top quarterbacks probably at the start. And in a 2-quarterback league, it's different. You know, if you watch this channel a lot, if you listen to Jake and I, we hate taking quarterbacks early. But in a 2-quarterback league, crumple that up like an old piece of paper, throw it behind you, get rid of that game plan. It's a little bit different, okay? And we're still on the run right now at running back. We've got Cook, McCaffrey, Henry, Chubb, and Kamara coming off the board so far in the first round. It's going to set us up for a super easy quarterback pick probably here in the first. Now, if I get my quarterback, all right, if I get my quarterback in the first round, don't necessarily think that I'm going to be ready to roll with a second one in round 2, depending on who's there. We'll keep an eye on that and we'll see. You know, Most Dope, who took Nick Chubb at number 4, just made a great point. You can't see the chat going on right now. I'm going to have to mute that probably. That sound is the timer letting me know it is my turn. Patrick Mahomes off the board. We are going to go with a quarterback first. Let's switch over to quarterback. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and go with Lamar Jackson here. He's my quarterback too. Definitely think he takes a huge step forward this year, so I'm not worried about it, but I'm going to go with him in that upside there. But back to what I was saying. About Most Dope, who took Nick Chubb. A lot of you might be saying 4th overall, that's super early. But he just made a comment down in the chat section, which you can't see in the video, where he was like, Chubb's my guy. Like, I want as many Chubb shares as I can possibly get this year, and I hate drafting 4th or early because I'm going to have to take Nick Chubb at that point if I want him. Which just reminds you, like, yeah, at that 4th overall spot, if you're in a 12-team league, you're picking at the back half of the second, you're not getting Nick Chubb, okay? It's not going to happen. So he's taking him there, and he doesn't care because he wants his guy. So, always remember that. Go get your guy. Now, if he was taking a different running back, for instance, let's say, he's looking at Cam Akers, and he's like, I want as much Cam Akers. If he's taking Cam Akers at 4th overall, you probably don't need to do that. That's probably a little too much. You might be able to get him at the back half of the second. That's a little too much of a reach for me. If you're like, I want Travis Kelce this year, taking Travis Kelce 4th overall, probably a little bit of a reach. So yeah, we do say go get your guy, but at the same point too, just be smart with it and don't overdraft people. All right, so let's see what we've got going here. So after I made my pick of Lamar Jackson, Barkley comes off the board, and then Kyler Murray, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler. So the running backs continue to roll off the board. Travis Kelce, Devontae Adams, the first wide receiver off the board, Aaron Jones, and we've got one more pick before us. I'm really going to probably want to go with a running back here. Again, there's going to be plenty of quarterbacks when it comes back to me still, hopefully, fingers crossed, that I can go ahead and take. But in like a super flex and a 2 QB league, if you buy the draft guide in the section about draft strategies, I do write about 2 quarterback and super flex leagues. I'm not going to break it down in detail because it's in the draft guide. It's exclusive content. But I kind of go with this draft strategy that I call early mid value when it comes to taking quarterbacks. Again, early mid value are my picks there. Back to me again at this point. Again, I'm kind of wanting to go running back here. Let's take a quick peek at quarterbacks. Allen Herbert. I mean, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks here at this point. I'm going to go ahead and skip on another quarterback, though, because I want my running back. I don't love Naji Harris this year. Cam Akers, I'm a little bit worried about his upside. Gibson is here as well. With all of these guys, for my RB1, I want to go with the guy that I think is going to end up getting the most volume this year. I'm going to go ahead and draft Naji Harris. Again, I don't love him as my running back 1 because that offensive line is going to be terrible this year. It's not going to be good in any way, shape, or form, ladies and gentlemen. So his weekly upside is probably going to be limited. His ceiling is not going to be very high. But from a pure volume standpoint, he's probably going to get RB1 volume. He's probably going to get RB1 volume. It's just how efficient is he going to be with that volume? That's going to be my concern. So taking a look at it, man, I'm going with Naji Harris there. Akers probably has a little bit more upside. Antonio Gibson probably has a little bit more upside. I'm going to go ahead and go with the rookie, Naji Harris, knowing that they're probably going to have to hand off to him on a consistent basis this year, and hopefully he gets it. So, there's still, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire going there in the mid-second round. I don't hate that at all. Eddie is always ready. Ezekiel Elliott and Clyde Edwards-Helaire to start. A lot of people might look at that and be like, whew. Okay, for me, I don't hate it. I think Zeke bounces back. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire bounces back as well. Tyreek Hill going off the middle of the second or towards the end of the second round here. Most dope forever back on the board as well. CEH going over Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson. A little bit shocking, maybe, but not too much. A little bit shocking, but not too much. Naji Harris, again, maybe a little bit early. I could have gone with like an Antonio Gibson there instead or a Cam Akers. It's really just how you're feeling. Like if you were to say, hey, Kyle, I'm going Cam Akers over Naji Harris there, I'm not going to argue with you about that. If you're like, I'm going Antonio, I'm not going to argue with you over that because I think all of those are really close to being in the same area of picks. So it's kind of a personal preference there. Hill going after Stephon Diggs kind of surprises me a little bit, especially since Optio choose not to do the stack there with Mahomes and Hill. Me personally, if I've got Hill sitting there, Hill is my wide receiver too. Stephon Diggs is right behind him. So it's like, whatever. It's not that big of a difference. But I already have Mahomes. So since I have Mahomes, I'm going to try and stack Tyreek Hill with him because, obviously when you're getting a big performance out of Mahomes, you're probably getting a pretty big performance out of Hill as well. I want to try and take advantage of that. Josh Allen off the board to Naji to the moon. Probably a good thing I drafted Harris where I did. I probably stole him away from him, but that's all right. Josh Allen coming in there. Surprised to see Dave the Wave go with Darren Waller over a quarterback, but not shocked. Little surprised, but not shocked to see that there. Justin Herbert going to K-Mac, and then K-Mac staying really balanced right now. Love that approach. He goes Cook really early, so he's got his RB1. He gets Justin Herbert to fall to him, so he gets his locked-in-stone quarterback 1. Then he goes with a wide receiver 1 and DK Metcalf. I'm liking that balanced approach. That is not bad. The question is when it wraps back to him in the 4th, is there a tight end there that he reaches on? What does he do there? Me personally, kind of taking a look at it as it comes back to me, we're going to be either going quarterback or potentially tight end here. And it's really going to depend upon who is taken off the board. We could go with another running back as well, again, depending on who is taken off the board. But for me personally, I think we've got so many running backs off the board because how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 14 running backs taken. I've got Naji Harris. So for me, if we can get through the next 2 rounds with a tight end and another quarterback, or if the tight ends that I'm looking at are gone, skipping on that tight end, going quarterback, potentially wide receiver, and then getting like Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis, getting those guys a little bit later, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, because we've already had so many running backs come off the board. The hope is potentially we get a few of those guys to maybe fall to us a little bit. Peasy going Alvin Kamara, Tyreek Hill, and then Calvin Ridley. So we have 1, 2, 3 teams here that are through 3 rounds without a quarterback yet. We'll see what Eddie is always ready does here. James Dennison would still have to take another one, and say maybe DeRojo would still need to take another one. Eddie goes ahead and takes his quarterback 1 with Russell Wilson. Probably a good pick there. Let's take a quick peek here at quarterback. I mean, Hurts is still here, Brady's still here, Burrow's still here, Tannehill's still here. Still a lot of good choices for our QB2 that are going to be coming up. J.K. Dobbins goes off the board here. That is a little bit of a surprise. Who did he go over on running backs? Okay, so not that big of a grass there in terms of running backs, but I'm surprised you don't go with a second quarterback or a wide receiver over J.K. Dobbins there, or even one of the tight ends. So for me personally, Rodgers, Brady, Burrow, Tannehill, all these guys, I'm going to go with Brady here. I 100% think Brady is going to have one banger of a year. I think Tom Brady in a redraft league is one heck of a choice this year. In a 2 QB league, it's even better. I think he has MVP potential this year. I mean, just the way that offense clicked at the end of the season, it's crazy. So if it was a super flex league, I'm not going quarterback there, okay? So that's why quarterbacks kind of, the value does, it might not seem like it from a super flex to a 2 QB league. The value of the quarterbacks does shift a little bit, okay? Because now you go from saying, okay, I need to have my locked in stone quarterback 1, and then maybe I can take 2 shots on other quarterbacks later because, I mean, heck, if I need to put someone else in the flex that week, I can. We've moved away from that now at this point, okay? We have to have 2 quarterbacks every week, so I want 2 good quarterbacks. So in a super flex league, I'm going quarterback in either probably the 1st or the 2nd round, depending on where I'm drafting. If the 1st and the 2nd round fall to me where I'm just getting great talent, then super flex, I'm okay taking my first quarterback in the 3rd round. In a 2 quarterback league, though, you really, to have a successful roster, need to try and grab 2 quarterbacks in your first couple of rounds. 2 quarterbacks, like in your first 3 or 4 rounds, 2 quarterbacks and your running back 1. It's very, very important that you do that. Who else has come off the board now since Tom Brady? Josh Jacobs. TJ, it's a little bit early for me for Josh Jacobs, considering DeAndre Swift was still on the board there. I would have much rather had Swift over him. Carson, I would have rather had over him as well. Just not feeling Gaskin right now. And then Swift comes off the board right after that. George Kittle, Justin Jefferson, David Montgomery, So say maybe to Rojo, I'm liking this team so far, other than the fact of who's going to be there quarterback-wise for him. I mean, this is a very balanced start. It's just, are you going to be able to get 2 quarterbacks that you trust? James Dennison, he's not going with a quarterback yet either. He's waiting on it. A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams, along with George Kittle and Jonathan Taylor, a lot of upside in this roster. A little bit concerned because of George Kittle's, injury history. A.J. Brown, I mean, as your wide receiver too, that's so good. That's so good this year if you can get A.J. Brown as your wide receiver too. Yeah, maybe some of that safety disappears because he's got Julio Jones now, but we know that he can stay ultra efficient down the field, and that helps with that upside. Allen Robinson going off the board there, so it's back to me. Here, I could go wide receiver potentially. I've got Michael Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. I've got some guys here. Tight end-wise, Mark Andrews, T.J. Hockenson, Noah Fant, Kyle Pitts. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to go wide receiver here. I'm going to go wide receiver because I'm going to get Michael Thomas or Terry McLaurin here as my wide receiver 1. I like Terry McLaurin just a little bit more this year because I know his quarterback situation. So I'm going to lock Terry McLaurin in as my wide receiver 1 here. More than likely, the tight ends that I'm targeting there are probably still going to be there, at least one of them, by the time the next round comes along. So for me, let me get a guy that is a for sure wide receiver 1 on his team. Because if it comes back around to us, now we're going with Mike Evans. He won't be. Julio Jones won't be. Amari Cooper won't be. Adam Thielen won't be. All these guys coming up have people that are right there with them, kind of taking away some of those targets. So at that point, you got, and that's why we always tell you got to be able to change things up as you're going through the draft, and you have to adapt to the way the draft is going. Like there, I was telling myself the entire time, I'm going to be going tight end here. I want to get my tight end 1. I want to get Hockenson. I want to get Pitts. I want to get one of those guys. And it comes to me, and I'm like, oh man, wide receiver wise, I really got to get a real true wide receiver 1. Boom. I adjust. I do it there. And now I'm feeling really good about this team still. So now my hope is that we get, as it wraps back around to us, we get that tight end 1. And at that point, we're looking at another running back as well coming up. The hope is maybe Chris Carson will be there for us, but probably not. If not, Myles Gaskin just goes at this end of the 4th. Okay, so Myles Gaskin is now off the board. So then at that point, it's like, okay, we're hoping like Mike Davis is still going to be there. Chris Carson is not going to make it back to us, more than likely. Dave isn't going to take Carson because he already has 2 running backs. K-Mac could take Carson. Naji probably won't. Most Dope won't. Peasy might not. Eddie might not. Optio could. So there's a chance Carson makes it back to me. It's not a great chance, but there is a chance that Carson gets back to me. We'll have to see what happens. Julio Jones. So if it comes back to me, I'm probably going to have to skip on tight end again, unfortunately, and I'll probably have to, and there he goes, Chris Carson to K-Mac. Like I said, if it was going to happen, it was probably going to be K-Mac. So then at this point, I'm probably going to be looking at needing to grab Mike Davis, okay? So the running backs are probably going to be, a little worrisome this year. If you look at the running backs on my roster, by the time we're done drafting, you're probably going to say, ugh, not great. I don't love your running backs. But we know we're going to get the volume with Harris, right? And if we can get Mike Davis when it comes back to us here in the 5th, that's not, awful for our RB2 in terms of looking at guys that we know are going to get volume, because that's it right there. All right. Maybe the upside isn't there with the running back position, but we get the upside with our quarterbacks, and we've got guys that we know we're going to get volume with as running backs. So those are safe. Hopefully we can get like Kyle Pitts coming back to us here. If we can get like Kyle Pitts or TJ Hockenson, we know the upside's good with them. We have some upside with Terry McLaurin. We'll see how the rest of the wide receivers shake out. So even if the running backs don't have a ton of upside for me this year, we know we have volume there. And that's what is most important at the running back position, is knowing you're going to have guys that have volume. And then we're just going to look for upside everywhere else to hopefully kind of offset that a little bit. So Adam Thielen ends up going to start off the 5th to K-Mac. K-Mac super balanced here. DK Metcalf, Adam Thielen, Chris Carson, Dalvin Cook, Justin Herbert, liking his squad so far. Dave the Wave goes with Jalen Hurts as his quarterback one. That makes me super nervous. I wrote in depth about Jalen Hurts in the draft guide. You can get that right now. It's going to be available. The drop date was supposed to be July 1st, but when you're watching this video, we've already decided to move it up, and I don't know when you'll catch this, but we're going to be dropping it before July 1st. So you can head over to thefantasyheadliners.com and order one right now. It's going to be completely virtual. You can get everything that you need to right through our website. You'll get the login information and everything, so you'll be good there. Let's see here. So Naji to the moon goes with his wide receiver 2 with CeeDee Lamb. Gaskin. So he's got a lot of, kind of like what I was talking about a minute ago with, being safe at running back. He's pretty safe at running back right now with Henry and Gaskin. We know those guys are going to get volume. Hopkins and Lamb have a lot of upside, so that's good. It's all the way back to me now. So we're probably going to have to go Mike Davis here. I really want to go with a tight end. What do we do? This is where, do we risk it? Do we risk it? If Mike Davis doesn't get back to me, I'm going to be worried about my running back. So we're just going to go ahead and go with Mike Davis. Unfortunately, I wanted to go tight end there to grab TJ Hawkinson or Kyle Pitts. So I'm really just going to hope that they get back to us. Because if you look at the guys that are left, Melvin Gordon, Monster, Edmonds, Jones, Carter. I mean, I like Carter. Trey Sermon is another guy that I'm going to try and grab too. I'm going to go ahead. Michael Carter, I'm going to add to my queue just to make sure that I don't overlook these guys. Mark Andrews ends up going to James Dennison. So there's one quarterback or one tight end where we're like, all right, we don't need to worry about that anymore. We're good there. So that's good. Let's see, and it's not updating. Okay, there it goes. It updated on the draft board now. Michael Carter, we're going to add. James Conner, we're going to add. Trey Sermon, we're going to add. So those are really the three running backs that I'm looking at kind of the rest of the way. Say maybe DeRojo goes with his first quarterback with Matthew Stafford. That's really, really good value right there. Ravens, we'll see what he does. Does he go with his quarterback too? Does he go with a tight end here? The hope is that Kyle Pitts or Dallas Goedert will be sitting here for me. Dallas Goedert or Kyle Pitts. We've got TJ. TJ goes with TJ Hawkinson. If TJ would have been there, I would have gone with him too. So now I am going to go with my tight end. I'm going to take Kyle Pitts here with that volume that he's going to potentially get and that upside this year. Taking him in the 6th round as, what did he end up being? The tight end 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tight end 6 off the board. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Really liking that. Really liking that pick right there. If he's going up into the 4th round in redraft leagues, that's scary for me. But 6th round? Nah, we're all over that value this year. So we've got our 2 quarterbacks, okay? We've got our tight end. We've got 2 running backs. We've got other running backs that we're targeting, and Michael Carter, James Conner, and Trey Sermon that we like as kind of our RB3s. So that's good. So we really need to turn our attention now to the wide receiver position, and we need to look for upside here. Guys that we have coming up, we've still got a lot of really good wide receivers, and this is why wide receiver to me is such a great position to wait on, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, just look at the value that we've got right now. Deontay Johnson, that worries me. I'm going to be doing some stuff on Deontay Johnson on the channel coming up. I am concerned about Deontay Johnson and those drops and what we will see that offense become in Pittsburgh this year. But Tyler Lockett, Kenny Golladay is a wide receiver too, is not bad. I know a lot of you hate Odell Beckham Jr., but I'll take him as my wide receiver too in the 7th round. That's not bad. We've got Chark, Juju Smith-Schuster, okay? Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy this year that I want so many shares of. Absolutely love him this year. He doesn't get nearly enough credit for the numbers that he put up last year. Are they the numbers he put up when he had Antonio Brown there with him? No, they weren't. But they were still very, very good numbers. And he fits exactly what this offense is going to become here in the next year. Okay, what we're going to see from them in 2021, he does an excellent job of that. So we're finishing up the 6th round now. Ryan Tannehill to Optio. Let's take a look at his team right now. Optio, Patrick Mahomes, Ryan Tannehill, love the quarterbacks. Stephon Diggs, Michael Thomas, love the wide receivers. The running backs are going to be an issue, though. Running backs will absolutely be an issue. You've got Kareem Hunt, who is definitely the running back 2 on his team. And you've got J.K. Dobbins, who will be the running back 1, but is going to have a lot of rushing touches taken away by Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson. So you've got a couple of guys here that, yeah, they could have a high weekly ceiling. That's great, but their floor is not going to be very good. Their floor is going to be a concern. Let's see. Let's look at teams that don't have any quarterbacks yet. So Peasy does not have any quarterbacks. Peasy's roster, it worries me a little bit. I mean, Robinson and Miles behind Alvin Kamara. I mean, they're not bad running backs 2 and 3. You've got the upside with wide receiver, but you don't have a quarterback yet. So are you going to be able to find any upside at the quarterback position? That coupled with your running back 2s and 3s, that's where I kind of get concerned with those things. Dave the Wave still only has 1 quarterback right now. Let's see. TJ's talking a lot in the chat right now. So let's take a look at TJ's roster. Barkley, all right. Dak, all right. Don't love Josh Jacobs as the running back 2. I think I already talked about that one a little bit. Allen Robinson is your wide receiver 1. Okay, all right. Aaron Rodgers, TJ. You know, TJ, I'm feeling the roster. I'm liking it. I don't like Josh Jacobs as your RB2. Would have much rather have had you gone with Swift or Montgomery there. Or, take that running back or take that, maybe a different wide receiver there. Calvin Ridley would have still been on the board, right? No, Calvin Ridley was gone already. Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown and Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson were all still, or you took Allen Robinson. Keenan Allen was still there. So your wide receivers could be looking great right now. So Peasy, I'm looking in the chat. I can't stop it. Peasy just accidentally took a defense. So I can't go back and change that right now. If we were drafting a real league, I could stop that. He just typed in chat. He's like, "Oh my God, I didn't mean to do that." It happens. Mistakes are going to be made. He did that, but we're in the middle of a mock draft video right now. I can't help anybody at this point. Back to me. Wide receiver wise, we're going to go with Juju here. Again, this is to me a really safe wide receiver too. I like Juju a lot right here. I want to try and stick with him right there. I'm probably going to have to move this draft board up here in just a second so you can see a little bit more of it. But I'm loving Juju here. Is my wide receiver too. Super safe. Maybe not all the upside in the world that you'll get with Claypool or Deontay Johnson, but he's going to get 100+ targets this year. He's probably going to catch 70 of them at least. And he's going to have plenty of room to run over the middle of the field. So he's going to be peppered with targets this year, and that is what you want. And kind of the hope is at this point, I would love to get Deebo Samuel when it comes back to me right here. Would really love to get him. Michael Carter, James Conner, Trey Sermon, those are guys that we still have to. Well, there goes Michael Carter right there. So my next pick, we'll see what we've got wide receiver-wise. I'm probably going to roll with Trey Sermon next if he's still there, and my hope is that he will be. James Dennison, did he mean to go with a defense here too? I don't think he did. We'll see if he says anything here in a second. Okay, so he messed up too, it looks like. So unfortunately, again, if this is a real league, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to help these guys out and I'm going to change it up for them so they don't have to be worried about it. Apparently, there was issues with them trying to pick. I'm not sure what happened there. It's not that big of a deal. It's a mock draft video, so I'm not going to stop it right now. If this is a real draft, I'd be like, oh, you made a mistake. All right, hold on. Let me stop it. Let's fix this. Let's get it taken care of. So let's see what we've got here coming back to us. TJ taking Odell Beckham. I'm going to go ahead and go with Trey Sermon here. I mean, I'd like to go with Deebo Samuel, but I think he's going to be able to hold on just a little bit longer. And really, I need to get a running back 3 here that I'm going to trust. And Trey Sermon should get plenty of touches this year. All right, let me just move the screen a little bit so we can see more of the draft board. There we go. Now you can see more of the draft board there. You can't see, I mean, you can't see everything up on top. I mean, you would rather see the draft board right now than anything. And we'll go through a few more picks, probably another round, and then we'll cut it out, and I'll show you the entire draft board, and I'll break it down from there and talk about the draft board as a whole. So PZ decided to go kicker. He's like, he goes, all right, I'm just going to go kicker at this point. Let's just round out the roster. So at this point, the issues has gotten to him. He's been rattled. Don't get rattled in your drafts, ladies and gentlemen. That's the best thing I can tell you. Don't get rattled in your drafts. So who do we got? We're gonna want another wide receiver coming up, right? We've got our 3 running backs. We've got our 2 quarterbacks. We've got a tight end. We're going to need another wide receiver. So we need to start taking a look at who we have from a wide receiver standpoint that we'll really want to get your hands on. Again, Deebo Samuel is my wide receiver 3. I would absolutely love that. Jarvis Landry, I wouldn't hate that. If we're looking for more upside, I mean, Devonta Smith, I mean, at this point in the draft, wouldn't be that bad either. We know he's going to get a ton of targets in Philly. Curtis Samuel wouldn't be too bad to kind of grab right now as a wide receiver 3. There's still quite a few options that we have. And then there's going to be a lot of guys, too, later in the draft that are going to be really, really good upside at the wide receiver position. Let's see here. Let's take a look at so Travis Etienne coming off the board to Optio there in the 8th round. He's one guy whose value, ADP, is someone that I could see rising very, very quickly over the next several weeks as we kind of get more into the later or the early stages of draft season for redraft leagues. The reason being is because redraft leagues are going to have a lot of your casual fantasy football fans, all right? And, what happens is he's seen as being a first-round pick, a guy that's going to be utilized. A lot of people might be jumping on that and saying, okay, first-round pick, he's definitely going to start getting a lot of the touches and start bumping his up a little bit where, some of your more non-casual fans that have been paying attention all offseason long, and there's nothing wrong with being a casual football fan. This is not like talking down to you in any way, shape, or form. Just if you've been kind of watching the James Robinson, kind of news coming in and out and him as well, you might be a little bit more weary because you're like, how much is he going to be used in the passing game? Are they going to be using him at wide receiver, which they've talked about a lot, right? They've talked about using Travis Etienne out at wide receiver. Are they going to be using him out there more often? And, James Robinson will be getting more touches on the ground. So there's different things like that play out over the offseason where maybe if you're not staying tuned in all offseason long, you see those things and you kind of just jump on them right away. In reality, maybe some of those things that got passed, you don't realize it, so his value maybe gets pushed up a little bit on draft day. So Travis Etienne, definitely a guy to watch. Brandon Ayuk being drafted over Deebo Samuel, that's something that I'm watching as well. I mean, Ayuk went in the 7th round here, and I'm hoping to make Deebo my, wide receiver 3 in the 9th round. So Ayuk going 2 rounds early here, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. I've got one heck of a Deebo Samuel video coming out this week as well. So if you're watching this right now and maybe you didn't check out the Deebo Samuel video, there's going to be one talking about bounce backs. You're not going to want to miss that. Let's see. Justin Fields coming off the board. Okay, so here's my thing with Justin Fields this year. Should he be starting? Yeah. Will he start? Who knows? Okay, because Matt Nagy is one of the worst coaches in the National Football League. Sorry, Bears fans. There's probably some of you that don't agree with me. Listen, he's awful. He doesn't know how to utilize his players. He doesn't know how to utilize the talent around him. He's not a very good coach. So Deebo's still here, so I'm going to go ahead and go with Deebo as my wide receiver 3. So right now, from a starting standpoint, we got Jackson and Brady, Harris and Davis, McLaurin and Juju, Kyle Pitts, Trey Sermon at the flex position there. We've got Deebo at wide receiver as well on the bench. So really that's going to kind of wind out my starters here. So we're going to go ahead and bounce out of this point. We're going to fade it into the entire draft board, and then we're going to talk about how the entire draft looked and played out after we got done with this last pick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, final draft board. Here we are. Every pick for 18 rounds in the book. And one thing that I just want to hammer home here real quick. I prefer Superflex leagues over 2 quarterback leagues. Now, the reason that we did two QB mocks the last couple of weeks is because we had a few requests for it. People were like, hey, I'm in 2 QB leagues. How does that differ for you? Especially since, we talk so much about waiting on quarterbacks and stuff like that. People wanted to get our take on what if we don't wait on quarterbacks. So one thing I want to hammer home, if you play in a 2 quarterback league, if you don't draft 3 quarterbacks, your season's done at that point. Okay, it's pretty plain and simple, especially in a 12-team league. That's basically 36 quarterbacks there. There's not 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Or there's not 36 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. There's only 32 teams. So not everybody's going to get 3 quarterbacks. Quarterbacks in a 2 QB league have to go early. You have got to get your 2 starters, and you have got to get a third guy. I end up getting Zach Wilson as my quarterback 3. Absolutely love that. And all you need at that point is 3 quarterbacks. If you end up having an injury, there's nothing really you can do about that. But that's why I like Superflex leagues instead of 2 QB leagues. Because then if you have an injury or if you have any issues with needing to get quarterbacks in, you have in that flex spot, if you have a week where you have to skip a quarterback because you just have buys or whatever might hurt you, you can put anyone in there. If you play in a 2 QB league and you don't have 3 quarterbacks and one of their buys come up, you're screwed. Like that's just all there is to it. You have to take a 0 that week. And if you're taking zeros in weeks, you're probably not going to win very many of those weeks. Okay, so you have to make sure in a 2 quarterback league, you're getting your quarterbacks early and you're getting 3 of them. In a super flex league, you still need 3, but you can wait on value a little bit more. Here on some of my picks here, you saw Deebo Samuel come off the board, and then I went with Jalen Waddle and Gabriel Davis and Denzel Mims after that. Part of my hope is because I'm not super happy with my running backs. I'll talk about them in just a second. But part of my hope is that Jalen, Gabriel, Denzel, one of these guys ends up absolutely exploding earlier in the year, and I can potentially move one of them to get another running back if I need to. Okay, that's kind of my hope, is one of those guys are balling out. I can trade one, maybe grab another running back to make my running back situation a little bit better. After Trey Sermon at that point, I grabbed Penny and Jamal Williams, just kind of based on what happens if they end up having to step up as the running back 1, right? We know Chris Carson has dealt with a lot of injuries. We know that the new regime in Detroit signed Jamal Williams and talked about him being a guy that can lead a backfield this offseason. So we know either of these guys at some point in time, maybe they do start to see a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. With Rashad Penny, it's all about, hey, if Chris Carson goes down, now I've got another running back 1. Now I'm feeling a lot better about my situation. So I just went with some guys that hopefully had some high upside that maybe I could move for like a running back 3 at some point in time to feel a little bit better about that situation. I ended up going with Jordan Akins as a tight end 2, and then I waited on my defense and kicker. For my defense, I got the New York Giants, who are probably going to have a stellar defense this year, going to shut down a lot of people, and I got Tyler Bass from Buffalo. The dude has an absolute monster of a leg, and they're going to put up a ton of points in Buffalo. So why wouldn't you want to have a team or a kicker like that you're going to get at the very end, right? That's what I'm saying, and that's what you got to do when you draft and you look at some of these things. And just a reminder, too, we had a couple of guys, they typed in the chat, you couldn't see it, but unfortunately they timed out. They had some drafting issues. Unfortunately, it ended up taking defense for them and kicker for them a little bit earlier than what they would have liked. So if you see that there and you're like, what's going on? We had a couple of issues in the mock with a couple of our guys there. Like I said during the video, I could have stopped it if it was a real mock and we could have fixed it for them. But while we're recording the video, it's not that big of a deal. They'll get it right on draft day. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning into this week's mock draft. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment down below. What do you think about the team that I came out with this week? Let me know what you're feeling. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to get out of here. All of you stay safe. All of you stay healthy. And I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.